Okay, welcome to our June 20th EAB meeting. Share the agenda here. Okay, so we had Township Day, went really well. I mean, it was a great location. We were right on the corner of in the center of the party, and so there was quite a few people walking by. We've got a good traffic, and people came to sign up for the terrarium drawing, and we gave away recycling bags, recycled bags, and we had information on the plastics. And then your native plants was a hit for some people, and had a question actually that I needed to forward to you. A lady was asking about one, so I'll try to get that organized. So it was good, and Maria had a good, nice interest in the terrarium. The lady who won it was a young woman, and Maria's not here, but I'm sure next month she can tell us about the excitement that young lady showed in it.
Great.
So
I'm glad it went well.
yeah, it did. It was good. Thanks for your posters. I actually blew them up on a larger format, just to have a little more visibility. So we had them on a tripod, and there were a few people that stopped by and commented on it or were interested in it.
Yeah, I thought you guys did a great job. Your booth looked great. The terrarium was cool.
Yeah, it was a nice day. And the temperature was perfect compared to previous years when we've been cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we've got a good set of resources now to share with others. Andy's plastics stats poster was a pretty good one, and I'm looking to see if we can get it formatted maybe a little smaller size to maybe see if the community center would be willing to put up on a bulletin board or two. So I'll pursue that with Andy. Any other comments? You had a good day there, Lynn. I think you were there most of the day.
No, I thought it was great. I thought you guys did a great job with your booth. Like I said, I think it was in a nice spot where I think you got a lot of foot traffic. I think in general there were a lot of people there. I think the day was very well attended. Nice mix of, just older folks, younger folks with kids. I mean, it was I think a really good showing. Good day.
Yeah, it turned out to be a real good day. So thanks.
Thank you.
Just to give an update on the council workshop, presented our pitch for, doing a open space tax. And of course, council's not ready for it this year because they just raised taxes the last couple of years to finish the building rehab. I guess there's been some debt that had to be drawn for that. So maybe another year we can approach it again and see what the possibilities would be. I think, we could use the White Marsh Whitpain example where the supervisors actually drove the initiative and realized that was easier. It would just make their budgeting process easier because they could then allocate funds for just the parks and such, and worry about our operational costs and the rest of their budget. So I think we can use that example in our case too. Any thoughts, Lynn, on it?
Yeah, I think so. You're exactly right, Bill. I mean, the raising taxes issue is real and was a concern. I think the other thing that council has thought a lot about is, in a lot of those other situations, there were large tracts of land that really made it easy for people to look and go, oh my gosh, that would be so great. Like save that, save whatever, save that farm, save that park. Like we're behind it. And I think as we've discussed, that's not Plymouth's situation. I mean, we'd be saving small tracts of land and maybe using some of the money for maintenance. So my hope is by the time this comes back around, maybe in another budget cycle, I know you had mentioned that they may change some of the, sort of legislation around how this can be used, like how much of it could be used for maintenance. But I think if it was possible for us to use more of it for maintenance or current park enhancement, it would help. I mean, candidly, I think it would help make the case. Because I think, in Plymouth, people aren't going to, there's not that big space to sort of rally behind. We have to make sort of a different case.
Yeah,
So if that's helpful in the way of feedback.
No, I was thinking that that's true, and I was thinking maybe what we could do is write an article on the Montco open space referendum, because most residents wouldn't have run across that in their normal, and maybe mention some of the neighboring communities that have done things like that, and point to our comprehensive plan with the trail plan, and realize that the trails, to develop the trails, is going to require a heck of a lot of money, and that might be our only way to fund it, because the rate we're going, we probably won't be able to put much into trails each year. It would take forever to build that out. So
yeah,
but yeah, maybe we can appeal to that walkability and less transportation use to help people, and also the park. Yeah, you're right. If we can't use it for maintenance unless we acquire tracks, I guess you still have one track that you want to acquire for the community center. So that could be a good example. Yep. All right. Well, we'll keep thinking about that one.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great, and I know it's not up to us to make this decision, but it would be great if it could be used to enhance existing parks and green spaces, whether it's by planting more natives or keeping them vibrant, or just upgrading sort of the space. Like ideally, like for Plymouth, that'd be fabulous, because we've got wonderful parks, but there's points at which taking those to the next level. I mean, some of our residents have even suggested that, like, our parks are nice, but hey, we've been to other places and those parks are fabulous. Like, it'd be great if we could enhance our parks. Like, if we could ever consider using the funds for things like that, I think it would be a much easier to position to people, I think, and get people behind it.
Yeah.
But that's, I realize it's not our call.
Yeah. But that's good. Good. We could pull together some ideas for the next time around. So the other thing I wanted to mention here was this regional conference that Upper Dublin EAC wants to run in person on Saturday, September 23rd. So I think I forwarded the email to the EAC. There's a survey in there just to show our interest in it. And if I haven't sent that forward, I'll forward it to everyone. So I just want to put that on everybody's calendar radar, save the date type of thing. Plastic bag ban. I attended the Montco, or the Southeast PA Coalition, last night, and White Marsh is actually ready to vote on it in their July public meeting. So Deb Schreier, the EAC chair, felt that was a pretty sure thing. And actually, the other one that had adopted earlier this year was Cheltenham. I think that was in February. So we have a few more showing up in the and then there's like 7 other Montco that are talking about it, that think they'll either have it presented in the fall or towards the end of the year. So I think we're right in the right timing for this to bring it to council in September timeframe. So I'm going to update the residents letter. I actually sent that out before the meeting today to everybody. So if you have any comments on that, it's just an update to show the additional municipalities, the numbers, just to show it is growing in Pennsylvania. And then we need to get that into the sewer bill for submission by Friday. The other thing I included in that email yesterday was the plastic-free July. So I'm seeing if I can get that on the sewer bill insert so that people are aware of that also as an option to track their plastic usage. And then, so these next areas are just about how we can prepare for the fall. I guess we have an opportunity to submit articles for the fall newsletter. We probably have to get that in pretty soon. So I'll find out from Karen what our date is. But so Andrew, had you thought of any other? Did we get a newsletter article on your native plant work last year, or haven't yet had that opportunity?
I don't think we did. Yeah.
So this might be a good opportunity if you want to, kind of communicate what's going on in terms of the neighboring communities, kind of show how Plymouth is participating with Norristown and Conchie and White Marsh in their tree development.
Mhm.
So that would be a good one. And then I could possibly bring in the Montco ROE just to have us kind of like introduce citizens to that. Any other? Oh, I guess we could do a single use update, but actually we won't have our survey results. So I think we ought to hold off on that. I think that we'll have to have the that's a good question about whether you have to hold a separate hearing on the plastic ordinance or whether it can be part of the normal public meeting. It's probable that it can just be a regular public meeting that you hold the public hearing, meaning you just announce, the ordinance and then you take public comment. And then the next month you, think about adopting. I think that's probably what happened in White Marsh. I'll ask Deb Schreiro. Others I had thought had said a separate hearing, but I don't think that sounds like it's necessary. So whether we want to have anything, I don't think we need to have an update. I think we've got a good, once we get the residential letter out and the sewer bill insert, we'll get some more feedback in the survey. And then we can send all the emails we received in the last year. How about this? We'll target August to collect the July responses, and then we'll have that list of emails, and then in September we can, maybe in October, present to council. And I'm thinking actually we could even send the draft. So maybe we should email the draft ordinance to Karen Weiss for solicitor review in August or September. And then that way, when we go in for the presentation in October, we'll have all the information they need to make their decision. And that would be at a workshop. So then if they're prepared to have the public meeting in October, I guess you have to advertise it though. I guess if it's an ordinance, you have to have a 30-day, I forget how to, so that's another thing we need to find out. Find out what public announcement timeframe is needed for a new ordinance. All right, so that could be things we will collect in the next couple months here. So I don't think we'll need an article on the plastic bag ban in the fall newsletter. That could be maybe something better to put in the spring newsletter after it's been adopted. So the other thing we need to do is draft the web pages for the information, plastics information. For both residents and businesses. So those would be some things we can work on the next couple months. There were some good examples from the coalition last night. They've been maintaining a Google Drive with a guidebook for what you need to do to go about building this all out. And we've got great examples from media to Westchester to others that have just reusing the same information. So I don't think we'll have to come up with a lot of new content. It'll just be organizing it as appropriate for our website. Okay, so those will be some good things. Anything else on the plastic bag stuff we want to talk about?
Bill, did anybody share any other thoughts or feedback at Plymouth Township Day? Like when you were at the booth? I mean, was that a topic that came up at all, or?
I did not get any comments on it. We had quite a few people take plastic bags, reusable bags. But you're right, nobody actually spoke to us about it. We had the poster up there that said, ask us about plastics, etc. So nobody raised it. I'm almost guessing that the initial kind of shock reaction that some of the initial responses might have incurred may be realizing that the momentum in Pennsylvania is shifting, and maybe they're getting more used to the idea that they can get used to the idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you might be right.
So maybe we'll just put a placeholder in here for the spring newsletter. Plastic bag update. Because usually after the adoption, different townships do it differently, whether they want to implement in 3 months, 6 months. So even though if it is adopted in the fall, it would probably not take effect until sometime in the spring, because you want to give retail establishments enough time to move through their single-use plastic bags that they've still got. And then you can take exceptions for those that haven't been able to exhaust them all. But that has to be a requested situation. So I think that's how most townships have been working through it.
That makes sense.
So then I think in the fall newsletter, we could try on these things and just for citizens awareness. So then I guess the other thing is the energy transition plan can come back to the table, because we had been asked to put that on hold while the building rehab was in process. So I think after November, theoretically, November, we can start talking about that again. So here's another case where, we can make a good case for the township to put solar on the municipal building, because with that 30% credit, I think West Rock Hill was projecting something like a return on their $170,000 investment. They were projecting a return of like $369,000 over the life of the panel. So that's above the cost. So they put in $170,000 and then they'll pay that back, plus they'll get $369,000. And there is a small system because they don't have a lot of electricity it's a population of 4,000. So their municipal building is not really as robust as ours. So our electricity needs will be higher. But I think putting a proposal together could show that council that we can get them a good return on their dollar, and that could sync up well with the building rehab completion and make that a project for next year or two. So I think we can go back to the table and just ask for the trail planning funds this fall. It doesn't sound like we're going to get very far, but I think it's good to keep the conversation in play so that people realize that at one of these years, we need to make that a priority. So then I think Karen Weiss asked me if we need to come back before September. So I said, I think we could probably cover all of this in September meeting. So we could do the budget request, the rooftop solar.
Bill, with the rooftop solar for our township building, are you suggesting solar would be in place of an existing energy source or as a supplement to? What are your thoughts about that?
I think it's only a partial replacement of our electricity usage. I can't remember what our total electricity usage, but when we looked at this about 2018, we had a proposal for solar for the township building. And I can't remember exactly how much it covered, but so it would not definitely replace all of the electricity needs, but it replaces a significant chunk. And whatever that significant chunk is, the return on investment is really the power of leveraging your investment. So, we could put up a certain amount of money or take a loan out, or you work with a developer who actually finances the project for you, so you don't have to put any money out front, but then they really own the panels for the duration, and then you can buy it back over a certain period of time. So there would probably be some needs to create a financial model to show, well, would be if we own the panels ourselves and put the money up front. This would be the model if we financed it on our own. And this would be the model if we had the developer finance it and then we purchase it back over years. Each of them have different payback periods, but they're all positive, meaning the township still wins no matter which of the proposals you take. It's just a question of how much you want to participate in the payback or not. So I think it would still be a good thing to put in front of the council because it's an awareness thing and not a lot of us think about it. And then the energy transition.
I don't have all the information on this because I wasn't even on council at the time that the decisions were made about energy sources in the township building renovation, but I had a resident ask me questions about whether or not we considered solar. So I actually had to I went back to Karen Weiss and another member of council and just said, what can you tell me about whether or not we considered solar? Because I'm trying to answer a question for a resident. And what they shared was there was some consideration of solar at that time, but they had also considered solar when they were building the community center and realized that it actually, like if they had put solar panels on the community center, it would have generated a very small percentage. It would have covered a very small percentage of the actual energy needs, something like 17%. Based on the amount of sun we get, how much sun we get, how often we get sun, like it just wasn't an efficient choice. And around the township building, because of the size of the building, it would also require that they weren't just on the roof of the building, but we probably have to have a field of them. And there were a lot of concerns around putting solar panels in a field because it's next to a school and kids are there and can people walk through there, and there's Bicentennial Park there. So I'm not trying to tell you not to do this, but my understanding at least was there were some concerns about whether solar was sort of the right choice. That said, I always reserve the right to get smarter, and I think the council always stays open to things as times change and technology changes. But I know there were some, there was exploration done, there was an assessment, and I think solar didn't get the nod for those reasons. But to your point, maybe it's a different day and a different opportunity.
Yeah, I think even with only doing a fraction of your energy is still a positive, because every piece of electricity, or every what would you call it? Every part of the electric bill that you don't pay on the grid to PECO and you generate yourself is a savings, no matter how small it is. So even if we put one panel on the community center and one panel on the municipal building, the payback from the panel would be more than what the cost was to put it up there over the life of the panel. So, 25 years of electricity, your payback is normally 10 years to pay off what you invested in buying those panels. And then you get 15 to 20 years of free electricity. When you accumulate the electricity cost over those 15 to 20 remaining years, you'll find that more than justifies putting those single panels on. So the amount of the roof coverage or the amount of the electricity coverage really, we wouldn't necessarily want to focus on that being the resistance, because every little bit you add gains you money more than you would have spent on normal electricity costs. So it's still valuable to do it.
I got it. Okay. Thank you for clarifying.
And then so we wouldn't need to put the full electricity usage of the municipal building out. We would just put on the rooftop what we could. And then whatever that pays back would definitely still be a positive benefit to the township. And then you wouldn't need to worry about those concerns about having it on the ground, because we wouldn't need to do that. But yeah, I think they're improving panel efficiency every year, and hopefully, if we propose this in next year, by the time you got a developer to create a proposal, you probably wouldn't be able to get it started until 2025, and so hopefully the panels will be even better payback by then, and so yeah, it's just to get people well oriented to this proposal, and then come back next year and give them more details. But just want to put it in your mind so that you can kind of think of it during budgeting season and say, well, when we come to 2025 budgeting, maybe this would be a good thing to put in some earmark for it, so that we could at least get some proposals out. You could probably put out a few requests for bids, and I don't know if there's a minimum cost to pay developers to give you bids, even if you don't go forward. There might be a courtesy fee if you don't go through with the project, but you could say, hey, we want to get some proposals here to see what the real cost would be. So that could still be worthwhile, just to have that kind of education. And the reason why I think it's even more powerful than it was back in the day was that this 30% credit now is worthwhile for municipalities to pursue, because you don't have to have a federal tax obligation. This is a credit no matter whether you're a nonprofit, a school, or a municipality. So if that example I used with West Rock Hill and Bucks County, they went and just paid for the panels themselves out of the reserve, $170,000, and they didn't have a federal credit. They just did it straight up, and they said, hey, we know that panels are going to more than pay back our electricity cost and give us this great return on investment. So that was even with no credit, but here we get a 30% credit. It'd be even more powerful for the township to consider.
That's helpful. Thank you, Bill.
Yeah, you're welcome, Glenn. Thanks. So that's some things we can look towards September. And I think Brandon was going to, and I'll just see here, I forgot to follow up with him earlier, but he thought he could add to our community or our calendar invite. Yep, he did. He put the Zoom in there. So now if we have any public interested in attending a meeting, we won't have to post it up on the news like we were. We were posting it up on the news, but since this keeps rolling down and it's a slot that you really don't need if you can put it in your calendar. So I think we're going to try that, and then we could put that in our Facebook to note that in fact I think that's something we can do next month now that we've seen it work. So yeah, our last thing was the township day. We did have a note. Yeah, maybe I'll just ask Andrew to, or Brandon to update this to say they're in the calendar on the meeting link on the calendar, in the calendar. So yeah, if we have any other articles that we want to put on Facebook, feel free. We do have the colonial canopy trees here. Good. And I can't tell how many followers we have, but maybe I can ask Brandon. Oh, 70 followers. So there we go. So we're starting to grow. All right. I think that's all I had on the topics. Anyone else? Andrew, did you have anything else you'd like to?
Not really. I just we're finished up for the spring. No more events until fall, I guess, with the heat of the summer. But for tree planting at least. And I just had a question, I guess, for the open space fund. Do we just kind of put that on hold until next time or next year at this time about, or are there things we can do in the meantime that you think would be good to do?
Yeah, I think what we would probably want to do is probably about this time next year, get ready to so we can bring it up next June, next May, June.
Okay.
And say, we've had a year without tax raises. We've thought about this. We think there's some other appeal for pursuing this within the township, and maybe after. So maybe what we could do in this article for the fall newsletter, we could say, one of the benefits of separately funded open space is the ability to add value to your community. And we could say something like, trail plan and parks and things like that. And then we could ask for people who are interested in helping us monitor that for the township and see if we can get some volunteers to help us as we then discuss this the following year. So that could be a good tie-in.
Okay, great.
And I think that, if the residents, a lot of times you hear people say no taxes, no taxes, no taxes. And those are probably pretty firm people that believe that government shouldn't be too big. But when you can show that the value of those dollars is actually going to add value to the township and enhance the livability of the township, if you can make that case well enough, I think you can help people show that, we're not overspending. We're actually, spending fiscally responsibly by adding value to our township. Because if we see White Marsh come up with its own trail system and Whitpain or White Marsh has the Cross County Trail and their tie-in to the high school and the neighborhoods around the Cross County Trail, they benefit almost immediately from that. The only time the Cross County Trail benefits Plymouth is for people who live on Butler between Germantown and Flower Town and people who live down near the Cracker Barrel and the Metroplex. And those going to Codwell Lane down to Conshohocken and, those types of things. But if we had a full trail network and we could show that, hey, you're going to be able to have your kids ride to meet their friends rather than have to drive the cars. You could go to activities. You could go shopping at the mall. I think you can make hopefully some good cases about how that would benefit everybody. Less traffic at the traffic lights, that type of thing. But yeah, it's always a sell to raise taxes. But yeah, thanks. Any thoughts you have about that as you think about it, Andrew? I'd be interested. So good. So we're in good shape. No updates from Rick that I'm aware of. Hopefully we get a few more people back next month. And we'll enjoy our summer in the meantime, right?
Mhm.
All right.
Well, I had one quick thing I just wanted to mention. I had someone mentioned this to me. You may hear about it as well if you haven't already. But the concept of having an ordinance, I don't know what the official title is, but it's like a tree protection ordinance. And I guess some municipalities have these, where the concept is like you just can't take a tree down because you feel like it. So it's meant to sort of protect trees on all kinds of property, public property and private property. So if you take a tree down, you have to put a tree up in its place. And as I'm sure we can all, we can all think about all of the ways that trees benefit us, right? Environmentally and otherwise. I don't know if that's something you're familiar with, if you've heard about that, if that's something where you've done any research, have any thoughts about it.
Yeah, when I worked at the Morris Arboretum on their urban forestry team, one of our main services that we offered were ordinance writing and helping townships get these types of ordinance passed. And we were working with Whitpain because they're also exploring this ordinance or edit to their ordinance. But yeah, their goal is to have a certain percentage of Whitpain be covered with trees by 2030 or whatever. And they're finding that most of the canopy loss is coming from private property. So they're trying to kind of require residents to get a permit before taking a tree down, or if it's above a certain size, they have to, there's certain things like you have to plant 4 for every, based on whatever size the tree is. Sorry for the dog, but
no worries.
Yeah, the biggest hurdles, I guess, to those types of things, regulating what people do on their private property, is, obviously the private property pushback, saying, people saying like, this is my land, I can do what I want with it. But trees are, as we know, don't benefit just the one person. They provide a community benefit, and especially large trees. And it's unfortunate because the large trees are the ones that are taken down for various reasons, but mostly because people are afraid of them. But another thing is that the township would likely need to hire somebody to enforce the ordinance, to make sure that people have permits, to make sure they're replanting right, to check the trees that were replanted to see if they're living a year or two after they were replanted and not removed or whatever. And that employee would have to obviously, communicate with residents and go on their properties and stuff like that. So that's where we were discussing with Whitpain, and they wanted to go forward with that. But my position was only for a year there. So I left in March, and I don't know where it stands currently, but yeah, I think it's a great thing.
No, thank you. That's helpful. I appreciate that.
So maybe that'd be another project to consider next year, do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I would like to. I haven't really had a chance to look at Plymouth's existing tree ordinance and Saldo stuff. I know my friend Tam in White Marsh, she led the charge in getting their tree ordinance revamped recently, and that was a really long and very just took a lot of effort. So I think it's certainly worth it because we can do all the planting we want on public land, but we have to, most of the township is private, so we have to, that's where the real difference is made, I guess.
Yeah,
I hadn't heard anything like that previously, so I was just interested in your perspective on it and if you've seen it done elsewhere, but it sounds like other townships close by are considering it, so.
Yeah, and Whippane is pretty good with their tree ordinance. I mean, they just for the development, like if you go see a place where they're developing right now, and I drove by the other day and there's a lot of trees. They require a lot, and they require all native and certain amount of diversity and things like that. So they seem to have a pretty well developed ordinance.
nice. Yeah, good. Well, we've got more and more we can talk about, and also I think sharing those ideas across this inter-regional EAC conference could also be good because we'll learn from what others are focusing on. Cool. Thanks so much. Any other thoughts, Lynn?
Nope, just that.
Good.
Thank
Good
you.
one. Good one. Always good to come up with some new things to work towards. So good. Well, good to see both of you. Appreciate this, and we'll come back together in a month.
That's great.
All
Thanks,
right.
Bill. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you both.
Thank you guys. Yeah. Have a good night.
Have a good
Thanks, you
evening.
too.
Thanks a lot. Take care.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye.